The Bitcoin Group, the American original. For over the last 10 seconds, the sharpest Satoshis, the best Bitcoins, the hardest cryptocurrency talk. We'd like to welcome our panelists Dan Eve, the Crypto Raptor.
Good morning, good evening, and good night and afternoon.
Josh Skagala from Vaultoro.
Good morning, Vietnam.
And I'm Thomas Hunt from the World Crypto Network. Moving on to issue one. Issue one, Bitcoin halving will be make or break for stock to flow model. Stock to flow, the popular idea that if there's less Bitcoin on the market, Bitcoin will be more valuable, is coming to a test in recent months as the Bitcoin halving, currently scheduled for May 9th, will kick off in just a few weeks. Will the price of Bitcoin rise, justifying everyone's faith in the stock to flow model, or will the halving be a dud, influenced by coronavirus, the general economy, and even the price of existing equities? Dan Eve, will stock to flow win the day?
I hope so. I think it sounds logical, to be honest. You know, it doesn't follow the normal supply and demand of a lot of other industries. The fact that the block reward goes down so precise, it's literally in half. And so you've got maybe miners that have accommodated for that by kind of hedging their bets on the price of Bitcoin. There's other miners that maybe haven't managed it so badly. So then you'll see maybe a drop in exahash. But then there's others that, have planned ahead, and they've definitely, they're the good squirrels that have saved their nuts for the winter. And so if they're able to get by without dumping, and dumping even less into the market, then we should see some nice gains. Plus, there's the fact that the general hype's there. There's the Google Trends on the massive rise. So it wouldn't surprise me if we moon just on the fact that people are going to be talking about it so much.
Joshua Skagala.
For the last two times it's been always talked about. The first one, it wasn't really talked about that much. It was just like hyped and but then the second one, it was there was a lot of talk about what if this is like a domino effect, the minus drop off, then this drops off, then at 51% because other coins, and then and there was a lot of fear. But this is happening in a very, very interesting time. And at any other time, I would say, I think it's going to do what it has done every time, and that's just keep going, and then it'll have a bump in price as miners need to cover their costs. But this time, we are in the midst of something that's probably not even every generation. It's a very rare event to have a global pandemic where everyone's locked away in their homes, all industries stopped. It's unprecedented. So we really don't know. And then, we're seeing crazy stuff in the gold market too, like the separation, like the true separation of the physical and the paper asset. So in every asset class, there's weird stuff happening because of this COVID deal. So I'll be very, very interested. Of course, us in the crypto space will all be watching this space. I think it's a fascinating space. And again, folks, this is an experiment. A lot of people forget. They think, all in with sell my house, sell my wife, sell my everything, and go on all in. And guys, this is an experiment. It's a very interesting, probably the most extraordinary and interesting experiment there is. It is an experiment. So just be a bit careful.
Like Josh is saying, I remember the last halving, and everyone thought the price of Bitcoin was going to go up. So, of course, it promptly went down. Then, a few months after the halving, it went up and up and up and up and up like crazy, and everyone lost their minds. Is that going to happen this time? Everyone I know thinks the price of Bitcoin is going up with a halving. Everyone is saving, everyone is scrimping, everyone is, even with the crisis, let's not spend a single coin. So based upon what happened last time, if we get to the halving across the finish line and all these savers have been saving, it could crash on them, making them save a few more months before the promised line. So it's not a guarantee that the halving will double the price of Bitcoin, but it is a necessity for the miners. The miners need the price of Bitcoin to at least double so they can continue making the same amount of money they were previously making on Bitcoin. If they make less, and like Dan was saying, they're not prepared for it, they haven't been saving their money, they don't have a good plan, they might have to stop mining, they might have to turn the equipment off, the hash rate could go down. Like Josh is saying, I don't think we're going to see a 51% attack this time. There's not Litecoin treacherously waiting in the wings or some other SHA 256 base coin. Litecoin's on script, of course. But no, I don't think we're going to see that. But it's not just a sure thing. Let's not just assume it goes up because we want it to go up. It's going to do whatever it's going to do. Let's move on to the exit question. Dan Eve, the price of Bitcoin this time next week, higher or lower?
Well, I think what price are we on now? Like 7,000?
7,100 in that range recently.
So I'm going to go higher because I think there's going to be a bit more clarity on the COVID stuff. I think there were some good signs from other little case studies that have been going on about how many people have had it compared to, a lot more people that they've had it and have got the antibodies compared to what they thought. So, yeah, I think that positivity is going to feed into Bitcoin and we're going to be out of the scrapping for the last bit of, atomic food.
Josh Gagala, higher or lower?
I feel like it's really got to do with the stock market now. I think if the stock market goes up, we'll see higher. If it goes down, we'll see lower. And this is sadly because we've all been like drumming the drums of like, yeah, come on, Wall Street's going to have Bitcoin, really getting them on board, which is just awful because now we're basically just following the stupid Wall Street. I would say if the stock market goes up on a fake ass pump, even though we have more job losses and everything, we've got a total separate. I was talking about gold separation between reality and paper, and you have a total disconnection between the stock market and the share price of companies and the reality of half of, I don't know what it is now, like 40% Americans out of a job. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's out of control bad, people. It's not good. The economy is not in a good place, but the stock market will go up because the repo market's getting fed by the Federal Reserve. They're buying up all the crap. Never mind, we had the subprime mortgage stuff. Now we've got the subprime car loans, which no one talks about. There's massive amounts of defaulting happening in America on these car loans. Who's buying that? The Fed is. And they're pumping trillions and trillions. And it's, this whole check that you guys got, you're going to get another one. You're going to get another one. By the time you go to buy a milk with it, it'll be worth one of those checks. So I'm going on around here, but it'll go up with the stupid stock market that's full of shit.
I think you made a good point there about the fact that the unemployment's so high, people have got no money. So actually, maybe it could impact on the halvening because, like, no one's got a job to buy it. They're like, I could have been involved in the halvening, but so that may actually have a negative impact. But I'm going in the short term up as well. Yeah.
I'm going to agree with the rest of the panel. I think it's going up. I've read a lot of articles about Bitcoin this week, mainly about technical analysis, and it's fun to see how they always predict both sides of it. So I'd like to predict that it's up. Unless it goes up too much, then it'll go down. And unless it goes down too much, then it'll go down. So I want to predict both ways. I want to know that. So you think I'm a genius. Also, I've got the prognosticator of prognosticators, the seer of seers, the magic 8-ball that's been specially modified to predict the price of Bitcoin. Will the price of Bitcoin be higher next week? My reply is no. So be sure to give us a thumbs up right now. We have 20 people watching. Be sure to give us a thumbs up. The magic 8-ball has predicted the price will be lower next week. There it is right here. Moving on to issue 2. Issue 2, Ethereum now matches Bitcoin on one key metric. That's right. CoinDesk was breathlessly excited this week as Ethereum matched Bitcoin on one key metric. What key metric could that be? Value transfer. That's right. If you count the Ether, which goes up and down like the price of Bitcoin, as well as the price of the imaginary stablecoins that have been printed by imaginary companies that link up to so-called stable fiat coins, the value on the Ethereum network is now greater. Therefore, Ethereum is better than Bitcoin at value transfer, at least this week. The only problem is the next day, CoinDesk realized why the stable coins were there. The stable coins on Ethereum seems to be moving to exchanges to get ready to buy Bitcoin. Will the stablecoin surge lead to a rise in the price of Bitcoin and an abandonment? And who cares if Ethereum had the most value transfer? Dan Eve.
I don't know. I think. Look, I think stable coins kind of do serve a bit of a purpose, because as a gateway, if people just want to buy and sell Bitcoin without using, without CFDs, they want to actually own the Bitcoin, even though it's on an exchange. But at least go through the notions of it, rather than contracts of difference or whatever. Then they'll want to buy it on and sell on an exchange, and it's much easier to do so if you can sort of do it straight into a tether type thing, and then you can go and take advantage of different exchanges via arbitrage. So I kind of do see a point to stable coins. I think there's some interesting gold ones coming out actually, and they're already out. I don't know. I think hopefully this just basically is another massive Bitcoin tether pump, but I do see the purpose in stable coins, to be fair.
I see the purpose too, but I think they're just cash that people use to store their money on exchanges. In the recent market crisis where people freaked out about the coronavirus and wanted to get out of risk, I think they saw stable coins as a way of getting out of risk, out of Ethereum, out of Bitcoin or EOS or Stellar or whatever crazy altcoin they'd bought. And they all got into stable coins. But the only problem is, I don't think they really want stable coins. As the article says, a lot of these people have no way of buying a US dollar if they could, right? They can't access the US dollar market. They're seeing these bizarre stable coins printed by, I guess if the US government is untrustworthy, imagine if a random person printed your stable coin. It just seems a little bizarre and unsteady. But I do believe with the second article, they're lining up on exchanges to probably buy Bitcoin and other real cryptocurrencies that go up and down, because everyone likes to gamble. Josh Gagala.
Yeah, you should be able to determine pretty easily if they are lining up on exchanges, because it's pretty easy to see the exchange wallet addresses, Ethereum wallet addresses, and determine what's going on there. But yeah, it's stablecoins. I agree with both of you. They've got their place, especially in the fact that banks keep shutting people down as soon as they withdraw fiat, especially larger amounts. Not even that large, like 10 grand. They'll freeze your account, and then you spend 3 months trying to just get all the paperwork. And if you don't have the paperwork, then you just don't get your money. So what people do is just keep it in stablecoins, which is a terrible idea, because if someone uses one of these stable coins on a dark market, and the government catches it and shuts down the dark market and says, "Oh, look at this currency they're using," they will put a lot of pressure on to shut down, or they could potentially shut down the entire stable coin that's behind that. There's so many reasons. Even if the government don't like it, the G20 are already talking. European Union's talking about getting rid of all stable coins. It's really not a panacea of protection from bank freezes. In fact, it's worse, because you have two counterparty risks. You've got the bank, you've got the stablecoin people that are apparently holding the fiat in a bank account. And on top of that, you have the third risk, which is governments could do whatever the hell if they print money. You've got the inflationary problem, which is more long term, but you've also got they could just come and shut down the banks. The banks could freeze it, or it's just a messy way to go. But it has its place, especially for short-term trades and moving between arbitrages between exchanges and such. Yeah.
I also think the stable coins are a victim of fantastic marketing. Stablecoin is just a great name for a coin. It sounds very stable, very sturdy. If it was more like unsecured, unbacked, non-government security based on government security, maybe you would start to see the various labels, like Josh is saying, like you don't just have your money in a bank account. It's not just a bank account full of Tether. It's based upon their random bank account full of money, which is supposed to match up the amount of Tether, which blends well into the exit question. Exit question: a few weeks ago when Bitcoin bottomed, they printed yet again an enormous amount of Tether, allegedly taking US dollars, putting them into Bitcoin, holding the Bitcoin in the Tether, allegedly, maybe just printing the money. Will we look back on this later and say that the Tether printing was the resultant for the Bitcoin price rise, just like it was last time? Dan Eve.
I think it's a bit too. It's a bit too. I don't know, simple for that to be just the explanation. And I think that although it's probably a bit, there are a few coincidences in terms of timing at this time. We do live in a world where you have to put your trust in certain third parties, whether that's being driven by a coach driver or a train driver. And so there are obviously breaks and controls to ensure that whatever driver it is, whether who's in charge of your debt, your money, your life, whatever, if it's a surgeon, for example, that largely there's good behind it. So I do think that with Tether, if they if at the end of the day they're audited, and if they can be audited, then you've got to put a little bit of trust in that. I know that's against the ethos of not having trusted third parties of Bitcoin, but not everyone requires that specifically for whatever their means and uses of daily activities are.
Trust no one. Joshua Skagala.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, even if they're audited, it's no good, because those auditors can go in and say, oh yeah, there's $750 million in that bank account. Okay, good, check. What they can't do is go to the bank and audit the bank to see how liquid that bank is. Have they spent it all on CFDs or on crap that's who knows what crap debt obligations they've bought? Like these banks are in highly leveraged on everything. So Tether's, even if Tether's 100% got the money in the bank, we don't know what the bank is doing with that crap. So it's a big mess. I wouldn't trust it as far as I can throw it. At least gold, you can count it, especially if it's allocated. You cannot, the person holding it cannot replicate it and move it. They have to have full reserves. This is very different to banks. And of course, you could be in dodgy countries. I wouldn't trust gold allocated in Botswana, but places, there are places like Singapore are still a bit sketchy, but Switzerland and stuff like that. But in terms of banking, forget it. I wouldn't trust it as far as I can throw it, and I can't throw. Look at these arms; they're pathetic. Can't throw anything.
Well, just like many things with money printing, it always comes back to Tolkien and the One Ring. And that's what I like so much about Bitcoin, is it took the power of the One Ring, the power to print the money, and it took it away from man. And we could say, well, that Satoshi guy, he set up this schedule, and every 4 years there's a halving and there'll be less and less Bitcoin. That seems like a good plan. I can plan based upon that. Every other money printing is based upon man. You look at Ethereum, they recently reduced the amount of Ethereum that they're going to print, which helps all the people holding Ethereum, especially the people holding the pre-mine of Ethereum. So much in the same way, this Tether, this ability to print the money, it's great that they say they injected all this money and that just at the bottom of Bitcoin, they had tons of money for which to print Tether and to buy Bitcoin. I wish I was so lucky. I wish I could print money at the bottom of Bitcoin and buy Bitcoin with it and then sell it to people later, assuming the price of Bitcoin goes up. We'll see how this goes, but I do think it's very likely that once again, we look back and we say, oh, the halving was great, and oh, adoption was great. No, we all waved our flags and tried really hard. But in the end, those sneaky bastards printed millions and millions of dollars and basically did what the banks just did to the rest of the market. They injected capital into Bitcoin when Bitcoin needed capital, right there at the bottom, right in time.
It's the ultimate. It's the ultimate forgery. To be able to just create a token, you're effectively forging the US dollar, which comes with a massive jail sentence. But it's kind of this obfuscation, this removal by saying, well, this equals $1 and everyone treats it like $1. So you might as well have forged these dollars, which is pretty much what they could do. I'm not saying they are. I don't.
Well, and
wanna,
that's why it offended us so much as Bitcoiners when all of this started happening, and we're like, oh, they're printing Tether, and oh, they're printing Ethereum, and oh, they're printing such and such a company, and such and such, and we're like, we got into this to stop that. Well, I thought we all agreed that was kind of the problem we were focused on stopping, but everyone else, they saw Satoshi's eloquent solution to stopping that, and they said, hey, I could make a copy of that, and then I could print my own Bitcoin or my own Ethereum or my own Tether. So it is interesting, but once again, as a Bitcoiner, as a miner or whatever, you try to ignore these things. You try to put them down in a box, and then this Tether grows up to this monstrous thing, buying and selling large amounts of Bitcoin and dollars, maybe even moving the whole market. And the fact that you put it in a box and ignored it did nothing, which again brings us back to the ring and the Lord of the Rings, and that you can't just hide at home. You can't just stay in the Shire. Like, you have to go out into the world, and you have to put the ring into Mount Doom, make so that no one else can use it. Moving on to the next issue. They could have just taken the Eagles the whole way. I know it. You know it. Those lazy Eagles showing up at the end. Narrative device. Terrible. It was a Deus Ex Machina. All right, moving on. Did you know the World Crypto Network has its own audio podcast? You can check out this show and other shows like it. Moving on, issue 3, Bitcoin search volume 4, Bitcoin halving, Outflanks previous all-time high. That's right. The amount of Bitcoin produced every 10 minutes is going down by half in May, just in time for my birthday. Again, isn't that great? The Bitcoin block reward is going down from 12.5 blocks Bitcoin every 10 minutes on average to 6.25. It's going to be an amazing event. And as we can see from the Google searches, Google and the rest of the internet is finally waking up to the Bitcoin halving. Josh, you lived through the last Bitcoin halving. Do you think this halving will be more exciting? Will there be more parties? Will there be more attention paid? Has the mainstream finally woken up to the fact that Bitcoin is going to do this every 4 years for the rest of our lives on schedule, no matter what happens?
No, purely because of COVID.
No.
Purely because of COVID. I mean, if we were all out and about, I would have said absolutely yes. Everyone's going to have massive parties. There's going to be fireworks. There's going to be huge live stream events. But since we're all stuck at home, we're going to be behind our little Zoom windows or Jitsi or whatever we're using, and just halving, and we're going to be pissing in the wind, and no one's going to hear us apart from our own little echo chamber, which is unfortunate.
We can all we should do a clap on the doorstep for the halvening.
Oh, well, yeah, but not at 7 o'clock.
We'll have a little party here, World Crypto Network. We'll get everybody together.
Yeah.
It's hard to schedule because the halving keeps moving just a little bit. And that's especially tough on schedules. But yeah, we'll definitely do an ad hoc as long as we can do it. Just like last time, try to invite a lot of people. I think we did a similar show for like the Lightning launch or something else like that. We had the whole Lightning crew on here. So yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Dan, Eve, what do you think? Josh is right. We're not going to be out in the street partying. There's not going to be Lamborghinis and Ferraris and fireworks unless maybe you have toys.
Sadly so. Yeah, I think in online it's going to be there's going to be a lot of hype, and as you've already said, the Google trends are through the moon, even compared to way more compared to what the 2016 halving was. So I think we are gonna be excited about it, and there's going to be a lot of like talk online, but the media is just swamped with COVID. When we're out of lockdown, it's going to be swamped with vaccination stuff. There's going to be reintegration of society. There'll be job stuff. I just think there's all the news that everyone seems, that's gone in the back burner that's going to get brought up, that happened while COVID's there. So whilst we will party on Twitter and we'll party on WCN on YouTube, I don't see much partying in the streets.
Exit question. As both Dan and Josh mentioned, the halving being slightly dampened by the COVID virus, does that mean this is a secret chance to buy? Looking back on this, will we say, wow, because of the virus, because of the economic collapse, was Bitcoin a really good buy? Or is there so much more economic collapse that we have no idea how low Bitcoin, Apple stock, even Disney could go? Josh Kagala.
Man, that's a tough question. I think there could very, very likely be a huge collapse further. But it seems to be that the plunge protection patrol is out in full force. They're feeding $1 trillion a day into the repo markets. We're seeing a massive amount of help. But the problem is then you see other places in Europe that don't do the same. Like Italy can't print their own money like the Americans can because they have to rely on the ECB. And so we saw the same thing with Greece and Cyprus. So I feel that there could be a much larger drop coming. And yeah, I don't know. It's a really tricky situation. But to answer your question in full, absolutely. Every time there's a drop, that's a buying opportunity right there, because it's just like when you're buying stocks. When you're buying stocks right now, you look at the balance sheets of those stocks. You look at the fundamentals. Don't worry about your technical crap analysis. You look at the fundamentals of a company. You look at how well are they doing in their balance sheet? How much savings have they got? If they were to keep all their staff on, how long can they keep it on for? What sort of investment have they got? Everything else is just noise. And then you say, I think they're way undervalued right now, and you buy some of that if you can cover food and rent. But with Bitcoin, it's the same thing. Fundamentally, how good is the value proposition of this decentralized, immutable, stateless, borderless money that has a certain absolute supply? It's that value is very, very, very good, and it's fundamental, and it's there, and it's a good buy.
It'll be interesting to see. I was certainly waiting for earnings season, assuming that the companies would make no earnings, and then looking forward to having less earnings next season. That's still happening right now on the stock market. We did see previously the stocks went all the way down to 19,000 on the Dow, down from 29,000. Incredible drop for that kind of a market. It recovered a little recently, back up to 23,000 in that range. But I just don't know if this is the dead cat bounce or if this is the full recovery. Like Josh has said, they're printing so much money, they're pumping so much liquidity into this market that even though it seems irrational for it to go up and for it to be done, it might be done. We might have had our overreaction already. Our crash might be there. In that case, Bitcoin could follow the equities back up. If Bitcoin really does take on with this stock to flow model, as they've popularized on Twitter, Bitcoin could go up as well. But as we saw during the main crash, if everything goes down, Bitcoin will probably go down with it. It's not reasonable to expect Bitcoin to survive complete market crashes, though I've seen people on Twitter thinking that way. Moving on to the next issue. Issue 4, grab bag. Tone Vase had his entire YouTube channel deleted. He threatened to just trade during the day and have a nutrition channel at night. To prevent that from happening, YouTube quickly gave Tone back his channel. But there was a great deal of panic and fear that Tone and all YouTube channels about cryptocurrency would be deleted. Currently, I believe BTC Sessions is having trouble with his channel as well. There are other YouTube creators that are affected by this. We hope that they will get their channels back. It is scary that they went to the trouble of removing Tone's videos as well. Other grab bag issue, Purse.io, the website where you could trade Bitcoin and buy things on Amazon with a discount, is going out of business. Sorry to see this. I had the pleasure to work at Purse.io a few years ago, and it was a good time. Also, what about the future of Bitcoin conferences and events? As we believe we're coming out of the COVID virus, will they continue? Meanwhile, President Taylor Swift has canceled all concerts in the year 2020. How will that bode for Bitcoin conferences if even Taylor Swift is not going out? Dan, Eve, grab bag, pick your own story. What would you like to talk about?
I'm going to go on the conferences because that's something that's quite dear to my heart. And And yeah, because we've missed CoinFest, blockchain. What was the blockchain nights in Malta? Sorry, in
Majorca.
Majorca.
Yeah, that was gonna be
then
good.
obviously, yeah, there's not Unchained. That's later on in the year, isn't it? There's blockchain hotel
scheduled for August. The reschedule of CoinFest is for November. BitBlock Boom seemed to be August, September-ish. Do you think they're going to go on?
Well, I really hope so. I mean, hopefully, come on, Bitcoin's such a hip technology that we can all come up with, all come up with like something that will block us completely, like, I don't know, some sort of, 51% attack of the virus. But genuinely, I think
everybody in the full chem suits.
Yeah, why not? As long as it can get you to a conference, then that's the main thing. But no, I'm genuinely kind of a bit worried about the long-term effects of people being sketchy next to each other in the street and sort of turning their back on being really sketchy around you, that sort of thing, that social side of thing, especially the telling off of people. There's a lot of that happening. But yeah, conferences hopefully back this year, but I don't think it's looking good, especially with all the big events being cancelled. It's looking savage.
Josh Gagala, pick your own story.
Yeah, I'm really sad to see Purse.io drop off. This is one of these older companies like Voltora and a bunch of them. And I sent out a tweet today saying, it's sad that I'm kind of bit over the whole hodl meme. I understand it. Hodling's good, hodl for sure. But to constantly push, that's the only thing you should do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin should be used. This is what the Lightning Network's great for. You should try it out. In fact, you should chuck up the donation page when you get a moment there. And I'm going to send some Lightning, just show the folks what's going on here, because it's there to be used. So here we go. Request a scan a payment request. Do a Lightning payment there, Thomas. Click on that if you can.
It's the same QR code, I think.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's I don't know. DJ Booth. It's genius.
Look at that. Yes, so it's and I really feel that people need to spend, and if they're not spending, they need to spend. If they don't want to spend, they should earn, because earning Bitcoin means that someone else is spending Bitcoin, and if you're spending Bitcoin, then just buy it back. Try to move the stuff. Because these businesses build the infrastructure for us all to use, and it does. I don't care what anyone says. It does give some sort of value. Yeah, it doesn't give all the value for sure, but it gives value. Imagine if Bitcoin was just Bitcoin and no one accepted it. No one could. You couldn't even send it to anyone. You could just hold it. It would have no value. I mean, it would really. It's silly. So, it is important that I feel it's important to. Okay, here we go. I'm going to send it. Hang on, that says on-chain. I haven't done this for a while with this wallet. I just loaded it up because I was using a different wallet, and I thought I'd give this one a go.
Don't show people how easy Bitcoin is to use. Don't show them
that. Payment exceeds your balance. Oh, really? Shit. I should have loaded more up.
Oh, well, Josh, you can try it again later.
I'll try it again later. But, this is live television. Things just go wrong. But the fact of the matter is, use a little bit, because we building companies in this space really rely on the community using it. It's like if you were to launch a community coin back in the day, like Brixton Pounds, if no one used it, it would just disappear. It would just not be used. I'm not saying Bitcoin will disappear and people will take that out of content and they'll yell and scream at me and saying, you're just a shit coiner that wants other, velocity of money. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that hodling isn't the be all and end all of a currency. It's also, trying to support the businesses that are building this community up.
I agree with that, Josh, and I want to second that as someone who worked at Purse and tried to market Purse. You don't know how many people would get mad at me for trying to ask them to spend their Bitcoins to get a 10 or 20% discount at Amazon, as if I was asking them to give up their life savings. And I would explain to them, I said, hey, if you have $100, you can buy $100 in Bitcoin just for spending. You can rebuy it. You don't have to just have this one amount forever. And a lot of people were stuck into that. And a lot of people were upset that I would ask them to spend money at purse, or even asking people to donate to Mad Bitcoins years ago. People sent me $10 and I'm sure I cashed it out for 10. And, now it's worth 100 and they're mad at me. And it's like, I didn't, we didn't know when it was going to go up and all those things. But that leaves me to talk about Tone having his YouTube channel temporarily taken away. This is more of a problem lately. It's easy to kind of target Tone and to say maybe he had affiliate links, maybe he was predicting the stock market, maybe he was providing strange advice or promoting a weird company. But no one should have their YouTube channel taken away and deleted. Thank you for the donation. That sound means donations.
All right.
But he shouldn't have his YouTube channel taken away. That's not cool. And this isn't just happening to Tone, who is a large content creator who can get a lot of people to come to his support. People even made videos about him losing his channel, and he lost it for all of 6 hours or something. But this is a lesson. We all need to come together. This does keep happening. I'm on a Telegram group of other creators, and it's disheartening to see how Tone losing his channel, Ivan on Tech being checked. I think Tizen was checked. A lot of other people have been checked recently, and it scares them. And a lot of them are saying, don't even do crypto content. Just don't even talk about Bitcoin. Don't even talk about this thing, which I think is a very negative effect, something I don't want to see, even though we have had a massive explosion of content creators. So certainly, if there was less, maybe people would watch our show, but I don't want to see that either. I don't want to see them shut down, even if they're talking about trading or whatever. Mad Bitcoin's never had any trouble with the YouTube, but then I was probably always too small to be any kind of a threat. So I'm glad Tone got his channel back. I hope BTC Sessions gets his back. I think Adam Meister was also in trouble, but that might have been a COVID-related problem. So let's go to the exit question. Which grab bag issue would you have talked about if you didn't talk about the one you talked about? Dan Eve, go ahead.
I'd actually go for the YouTube for Tone Base. I think that's it's sad that people can be deplatformed without having. I know that obviously they retracted quickly, but without having any form of discussion with the person, especially when that person they're not haven't got a history of producing content that's crazy or anything like that. And even they did, at least there's a conversation to be had. Rather than just actually, removing their channel. So I think it's good that they've U-turned with Tone. Hopefully they U-turn again with BTC Sessions. I just hope that I certainly don't hope that the WCN doesn't get cut, because that would be terrible.
Well, and I certainly thought about that. I thought about, from a security and a history perspective, are we even safe doing this show? I mean, I do pretty benign morning type shows these days. I read articles. I do opinion. When it's opinion, it's very clearly opinion, I think. But yeah, there was a chance where I was like, maybe we should just restart over, put our channel in freeze so that it can't be destroyed, so that it can't be deleted. So it is very scary to see YouTube doing this. And I know other creators have lost their channel. We're fortunate. We do have a backup. But we don't have a backup of everything. Like right now, I'm creating more work for the backup, which is also me. And we also don't have a backup site like YouTube where we can just put this out. And of course, everybody has their own decentralized YouTube that they're very happy to mention to us in the comments. But I'm just very sorry to inform you, no one watches those things. So if you put up the videos on there and no one watches them, it's not that different from not having the videos on the internet. I know it's a Zen koan. We're gonna have to think about that. But Josh Gagala, which story would you have chosen if you didn't chose the one you choose?
Yeah, conferences. That's really unfortunate with the conference thing. But I think what's beautiful about it is all this creativity. We did the Lightning Network conference, and we instead of in Barcelona, we did it online. And out of that spawned a weekly show with Fulmo guys doing stuff where projects come on and they talk about their Lightning projects, and they get other developers on board, and it's getting a lot of excitement. And And things are starting to move even quicker now because of that. So, it's great because these one-off events, they cost quite a bit of money. And now it's online, of course. It's always going to be where people want to join up. Part of it's drinking with buddies that we've all talked to online and actually meeting each other, and people going, "Oh my God, Josh, you're so much taller than on the screen," this sort of stuff. But it's it's sad to see, but it's just what it is. There's a weird virus out there, and we'll see what happens. I think it'll resolve itself soon enough, and we'll be back to drinking with our online buddies.
And that leaves me to talk about Purse.io. Purse.io, the second Bitcoin startup that I worked at, and the second Bitcoin startup that I worked at to go out of business. I was pretty fortunate back in the day to work at BTC Jam. We tried very hard to give Bitcoin loans to the community. We were hit by a lot of fraud. A lot of people applied to loans that weren't actually who they said they were and ran off with the loans, et cetera, et cetera. It just didn't really work out. Everyone tried their best. Same thing with Purse.io. We tried to give people Bitcoin discounts for shopping at Amazon. It was kind of a complicated system. People would have to come in and buy the wish list for someone else. You couldn't always tell where that money was coming from. So that might have been a problem. Later on, they kind of started becoming a Bitcoin development house instead of focusing on retail, kind of allowing Fold to pass them in retail. There was possibly questionable Bcash decisions. I don't know if they were influenced, but they switched over to Bcash. You have to imagine that during the scaling wars, when it was very expensive to send Bitcoin, very few people were paying that expense to send their money into Purse. So you have to imagine they had a major problem there. They saw Bcash as the solution. Maybe that pissed off the community. They never adopted Lightning Network. They never went back that way. Whereas we saw Fold adopted Lightning Network early, went that way, giving people the discounts, similar systems. So it is sad to see Purse go. Had a great time working there with Andrew, Kent, JJ, Steven, Mackie, Aaron, Jackie, Damien, the rest of the crew. Great time at Purse.io. We got to live in San Francisco. It was really fun. So sad to see them go. It doesn't help anybody not to have Purse. We also want to say a sad farewell to Toni Lane Casserly, fabled co-founder of Cointelegraph. She was quite a character, and she passed away far too young. Very sad to see Toni Casserly go. Josh, you also knew Toni Lane. Do you want to just say something about Toni Lane?
Yeah, man, I really, I was super shocked, deeply saddened by her passing. She was absolutely bonkers. She was full of energy. She really had aspirations to, change the world in ways that most wouldn't. And whether that would be possible or not with her lofty goals, it doesn't matter. What mattered was that she had those goals. And when I read that, I really felt, very, very sad. We had a lot of great times, here in Berlin and also abroad. And it's it's a great loss to the community. She's an extraordinary, quick thinker, and someone that could really, lighten the room when they walked in. That's for sure.
All right, Toni Lane Casserly. Let's see. Do they have her age? She's very young. Doesn't seem to. Sorry, the article doesn't have her age. But Toni Lane Casserly, dead 2020. Let's move on to prediction or a story of the week. Dan, Eve, are you ready with a prediction or a story of the week?
My prediction is that we're going to have you. I think I went for this last week, actually, so I won't go for that. I was going to say some more good news that means that we're going to be out of COVID soon, but we've just gone into another 3 weeks of lockdown, so I'll steer clear of that. My other prediction. Okay, here's my slightly long-term prediction. I do think that the net positive, the positive of this whole coronavirus thing which is, it's going to be good, I think, in a certain ways. There's a lot of negatives, but I think that the world has realized how much of the supply chains are reliant on China. And although there's a huge number of jobs that have been lost and companies folded around the world, what we will see is a load of those manufacturing jobs and jobs moving back to the countries to backfill that reliance that was on Chinese manufacturing. So I think that should be that's a positive to look up on, hopefully, if it works in theory. That's what I think, maybe.
And what about your new song? Do you have any new songs to tell people about?
Oh no, yeah, the new song, "Here Come the World Health Org," which I actually released it. I say released it as in,
which may or may not have caused Donald Trump to cut their funding. Timing alert.
Yeah, it was 2 days before, and suddenly, yeah, because the chorus is "Here Come the World Health Org, biopolitical gangsters. They said that COVID ain't airborne, still funded by that." And then 2 days later, Donald Trump cuts funding. Now, I'm not saying that if he did, you could have at least retweeted it if it did make you make that decision. Personally, I'll just very quickly on this. I don't think it's not the ideal time to do it, but at the end of the day, their whole goal is to prevent and reduce the impact of a pandemic, and they kind of failed. So it's hardly like every individual country now is working to get their own vaccine and doing all this stuff internally. There's almost no use for them at the moment. Savage.
Yeah, but you can't cut their funding in the middle of a pandemic. Doesn't make any sense at all. But let's not get political. Josh Gagala from Valtoro, a story of the week or a prediction? Go ahead.
My prediction is that there will be some bank failure within the next 2 weeks in Europe. Probably, you can't have the whole economy shut down and everyone defaulting on loans and not have some sort of fallout from that. The ECB is not tied in like the US that can just drill everything on. I get a feeling there'll be some foreclosures, and they might be smaller foreclosures, so you might they might fall under the radar. But if you look at someone like Deutsche Bank, even though that's a big one, if you look at their stock price, I mean, it's compared for over the last, since 2008, actually, since the crisis till now, like where they were at, it's like $100. Now they're down to like $1. I mean, it's I think we're going to see some sort of crisis. I'm not actually sure what I shouldn't say the share price because I'm not even sure. But I think it's I think we'll see something like that.
Always positive news from Josh.
Yeah.
And my story of the week is mainly a programming update. I just want to describe to you guys what's going on here at World Crypto Network. This week, I made a bunch of small videos. I made small videos that are Bitcoin headlines where I read stories, small videos, Bitcoin bullish or bearish, kind of my 2 bits, where I try to give you some opinion on those stories, and other small videos called Bitcoin Price Alert. So I'm going to keep making these hopefully every day. And then Dan and I are going to do the Thomas Hunt show, maybe Saturday and Sunday, every once in a while. And eventually I'm going to look at live streaming these and maybe even shuffling them. So that's why I've broken them up into individual parts. Also, I think YouTube is also focused on views. So this might get us more views, being transparent there. So that's about it. That's your scheduling update. I hope that other people will continue to do shows. This does kind of make it hard to see the old shows, but there are playlists and there's other great ways to keep up with the World Crypto Network. So thanks again to anyone who wants to send us a donation, like $5-10, especially donating while the price of Bitcoin is relatively down like this. If it goes to 100,000 or 300,000 or whatever, your $5 donation could be worth more. So that'd be fun. But it's also good if you enjoy the show to give us a thumbs up and a share, to subscribe down below. You'd be surprised. 40% of the people who watch the World Crypto Network have not yet subscribed. So it's a good time to hit the subscribe button. If you've already subscribed, make sure you're still subscribed. Sometimes they unsubscribe you. Also, you can hit that bell for notifications. They have this on Twitter and Facebook. So if you want the Periscope notifications, if you want the Facebook notifications, they have it on YouTube even, notifications. So a subscription is not enough. You have to subscribe, then hit the bell. Then you have to like every episode. Then you have to share them all. Then you have to write blog posts about them. You have to go to war on Reddit and tell people how great they are and use lots of adjectives and angry GIFs and other images. That's what you have to do if you really want to be a fan. But you don't have to do that. It's good enough that you just give us a thumbs up.
Click that $10.
Huh?
I think
Click $10. All right, let's see.
Yeah, because I think that's what I've got on this channel here.
Oh, look at this. DJ Booth makes a whole. I haven't clicked this in a while. Look, it makes a whole thing. Oh, it's got the Mad Bitcoins on there. Let's see. It's got Mad Bitcoins. Looks like Blade Runner Mad Bitcoins from Philippe, and it
that's
has
why
$10 donation amount there if you just scan the code.
Hey!
Oh, look, and it beeps and it sends. So very cool. That's how you can support the show.
That's why it didn't work before, because it was scanning an on-chain.
Well,
so
very cool.
You have to choose the price and then.
Anything else in closing you guys want to say today? Anything else to add?
No, lots of love, lots of peace and happiness on this planet. Hopefully everyone is securing their family's wealth. Please don't gamble during this time. Take it very, very seriously. It's not, you'll be sorry if you didn't hear all of this news and shuffle some assets around. Diversify into bearer-based assets if you can, and even stock up on a little bit of food. You don't know where this is going. It looks like it's heading into the light. We might be getting out of the forest, but I think we'll be seeing waves. We'll see countries opening up and then shutting back down again, opening up, shutting down, opening up, shutting down. And we don't know what's going to happen. We're seeing some supply chain disruptions already in Europe now with food, as farmers stop getting people working. A lot of the workers on farmers were people from Poland, people from other countries. They can't get that anymore. So just, guys, take it seriously. Buy a little bit of extra food every time you buy. Don't eat it all until you go shopping again. You have to get out of that mindset of last minute. Eat half of it, go shopping again, leave the other half, and stack. Stack the sats, stack the gold, stack the food.
And there's no reason to be the first one out the door. Just because your country or state says there's no more problem, there's no reason to run out and just live like it used to be. You can keep stocking up. You can keep staying home. Hopefully, if you have a job you can do remotely, something like that, that would be best. But if you got to go out, you got to go out. You can still wear gloves and masks, even if they say everything is fine. You can be that silly one that keeps wearing gloves and masks or stays home.
And it's even good for Anon.
Yeah, it breaks all the facial recognition cameras. Dan, anything you want to say in closing, heading towards the end?
I think Smuggler would be proud with all of us with our masks on. I think.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back again next week with another Bitcoin group, and tomorrow around 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time with the Thomas Hunt Show. Dan and I are going to talk about Tiger King, maybe cover some of the best political things that happened this week, play some video clips, read some books, all the kind of things that we do on the Thomas Hunt Show.
Talk about
so join us
King.
for that tomorrow. Josh might join us too, sounds like. All right. Until next time, bye-bye.